Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Kelly Bullwinkle, a Crafton Hills college student from Redlands, California, went missing in September 2003. Kelly was last seen leaving a local restaurant where she worked as a part-time waitress. Initially, the authorities suspected that her disappearance was related to prohibited substances, but this story turned out to be much more intricate. The subsequent investigation led the detectives to the truth, which many could not believe. Kelly was the only child of Diana Bullwinkle. She liked thrift shopping with her friends and sewing clothes on her own. Kelly loved her small town, but like most teens, she was starting to outgrow it and planned to move away and study psychology and creative writing at Sonoma State in Northern California. She had a natural talent for writing. As a junior, she received an honorable mention award for an essay on the danger of prohibited substances. Ever since Diana Bullwinkle separated from Kelly's father when Kelly was 3, she and her daughter were very close. The two hopped around to different cities, following Diana's orders with the U.S. Coast Guard, with whom she had made Chief Petty Officer and Health Services Technician. Diana didn't get to see her daughter on prom night, though. She was on her first shipboard detail with the Coast Guard in Central America. The assignment would cause Diana to miss half of Kelly's senior year, starting in January with training for ship detail in Texas, and then off to pursue illegal substance traffickers in the waters off Central America. However, leaving Kelly alone wasn't a big deal. Kelly was generally considered conscientious by friends, teachers, and employers. Besides, her mother's friend, Laura Williams, whom Kelly considered one of her parents, lived with them in their 3-bedroom Spanish-style home on La Feliz, a quaint street about 5 miles from downtown. For her senior prom, the most exciting night of her life, Kelly Bullwinkle, just 17 at the time, decided on a knee-length red dress to complement her shoulder-length red hair. Kelly's date was an older girl, her 19-year-old best friend, Kinsey Nordman. Even in socially conservative Redlands, girls can go with girls to the prom, and when they started kissing each other on the dance floor, that too was all in fun. Still, going to the prom and making out with each other represented a declaration of purpose and independence for Bullwinkle and Nordman, who had both recently been through intense periods of change and struggle for identity. Their appearance together at the prom could have easily been the start of something positive. Instead, it was the beginning of the end. Mother and daughter's last words were by email on the Saturday morning before Kelly went to work. Later that night, Diana emailed Kelly and did so again the following morning. She was excited to tell her about a large drug bust that she was a part of that day while on patrol. But there was no response from Kelly. Kelly Bullwinkle finished her shift as a cashier at Baker's Burgers at 4:20 p.m. on Saturday, September 13th. She wasn't scheduled that day, but took the shift when one of her coworkers got sick. It was typical of Kelly to help a friend in need, and she didn't complain about having to work. In fact, Kelly covered half the cost of her recently purchased 1992 Mazda Protégé with money she saved up from working at the burger joint. After work, she drove off to hang out with friends. When she didn't show up for her shifts the next 2 days, her employer called and left messages on her answering machine, wondering why the usually responsible teen hadn't shown up to work. On September 15th, Laura Williams, a friend of Diana Bullwinkle who lived with them, returned from a 5-day trip to her parents and heard phone messages left by Kelly's employers. But that wasn't the only strange thing. Kelly's 9-year-old Australian Shepherd, Blaze, 4 cats, and her goldfish, Jessie, hadn't been fed. Her diabetic dog had not received its twice-daily insulin shots. The porch lights were still on, and the newspapers were still lying at the bottom of the stairs. Kelly loved her animals dearly and couldn't forget about them, so Laura Williams immediately had a bad feeling. On the same day, September 15th, she went to the police station and reported Kelly missing. Laura told the officer that Kelly was hanging out with new friends and had been using prohibited substances lately. She thought Kelly had thrown a party sometime over the weekend because she found empty liquor bottles scattered around the kitchen. Like most teenagers, Kelly had bouts of depression. Laura Williams emailed Kelly's mother, who was working on a ship off the coast of Costa Rica at the time, and informed her that Kelly had disappeared. The police immediately began gathering information and looking for Kelly. First of all, the police wanted to know who was the last person to see her or talk to her. The police found a clue among the messages on the answering machine at Kelly's house. One of the most recent messages left on it was from her friend Kinsey Nordman, in which the latter asks Kelly to hang out with her. Therefore, investigators decided to talk to her. On September 17, 2003, Sheriff Deputy Gary Coopersmith went to Kelly's home to investigate the missing person report. Kinsey was there at the time. She already knew her best friend had disappeared and wanted to help the police. Kinsey told the officer that she and Kelly had used prohibited substances and advised them to contact Kelly's father, who lived in Texas. According to Kinsey, Kelly's father sold them substances, and the three of them used them together. When asked when she last saw Kelly, Kinsey replied that they met on the eve of Bullwinkle's disappearance. They spent the evening together, and then Kelly went home. That was the last time Kinsey saw her. Forensics searched Kelly's house, hoping to find clues that could help with the investigation. Kelly's belongings, including her clothes, shoes, and jewelry, remained in her room. There was a mess in the room. However, there weren't any signs of a struggle. It was more like the room of a teenager who hadn't cleaned up for a while. Mrs. Bullwinkle returned home the following Friday, September 19th, as soon as she was able to get off the ship. Kelly's mother pleaded on TV to whoever took her daughter, saying, "Please send her home. Don't hurt her. She's a great kid." Diana assured the detectives that Kelly could not have disappeared of her own free will because she simply had no reason to do so. When she had plans to go somewhere, she always warned about it and asked someone to look after her pets. The first important lead the police had was Kelly's car, found in the parking lot of Ontario Mills Mall, about 25 miles from her home. On September 14th, one day before Laura Williams reported Kelly missing to the police, Ontario Mills Mall security called a tow truck because of an abandoned car. It was taken to the impound lot. As it turned out, it was a Mazda belonging to Kelly. Investigators considered this a bad sign. After all, criminals often abandon their victims' cars in such places so that it would be harder to find them. Criminologists examined the car, found hair on the seat upholstery and some fingerprints, and sent the potential evidence to the laboratory for analysis. Kelly's purse and other personal belongings were in the car. There was a mess inside the car, but at the same time, there were no evident signs of a crime. One of the main questions the investigators wanted to find an answer to was who left Kelly's car near the mall. Evidence found in the car led the police to Kinsey Nordman, Kelly's best friend. But could Kinsey have had anything to do with Kelly's disappearance? When Kelly went missing, Nordman played the role of a loyal friend to the girl with whom she had been inseparable since Kelly's senior year. Nordman passed out missing persons flyers. Police and friends said she also joined in on the two-day search, which involved over 100 members of the U.S. Coast Guard, and focused around the area where Kelly's car was found at the Ontario Mills Mall on September 14th. Nordman even spent time at Kelly's mother's house, lending her support, especially in the first week after Kelly disappeared. However, examining Kelly's social media, investigators found something suspicious. A week before her disappearance, Kelly posted about a crisis in her relationship with friends on LiveJournal. She appeared ready to move on and make new relationships. Kelly wrote, "Now it is time for me to move on from those things and those terrible people that I somehow was friends with and go find my real friends, the ones that I didn't listen to when they tried to steer me in the right direction." The investigators met with Kinsey again. She denied any involvement in her friend's disappearance, saying she was Kelly's best friend and was often in her car, so it was not surprising that her fingerprints were found there. It made sense to the investigators. Besides, they had no evidence to link Kinsey to Kelly's disappearance. Before leaving the police station, Kinsey told investigators they needed to question other friends of Kelly. According to her, Kelly knew a group of people from the criminal world. She even mentioned two names, Mike McMillan and Eric McLaughlin. The police knew these people. At that moment, they were under arrest for car theft that occurred on the same days when Kelly disappeared. The investigators first questioned McMillan. He said he knew Kelly because his cousin worked with her. McMillan was surprised when he was informed that Kelly had disappeared and stated that he had nothing to do with it. The police had no evidence to link him to Kelly's disappearance. Eric McLaughlin also denied his involvement in this case. There was no evidence against him either. Redlands Police Department focused on McLaughlin and McMillan and searched their apartments and crash pads. Inside a safe house the two used, police found a bloodied white t-shirt and jeans. A portion of the carpet with blood splatter was also taken as evidence. In both homes, there were scattered clippings of Bullwinkle's disappearance. The evidence was sent to the laboratory for examination. At this investigation stage, the police believed they were on the right track and that the evidence they found would help solve this case. However, in the end, their hopes did not come true. While Mike McMillan and Eric McLaughlin pleaded guilty to other crimes they committed, they were not connected to the disappearance of Kelly Bullwinkle. On October 4th, 3 weeks after Kelly disappeared, two Redlands residents playing paintball along Santa Mateo Creek, about a half-mile from the intersection of Santa Mateo Canyon and Alessandro Roads, discovered Bullwinkle's remains down a 28-foot embankment buried under an orange weathered couch. The two men drove the 2 miles to the Redlands police station to report their grisly findings. Bullwinkle was partially buried in a shallow grave and was still wearing the clothes she went to work in, a juxtaposed blue tank top, a Chico camouflage-colored jacket, and a pair of Levi's blue jeans. What looked like marijuana was found tucked between her pants and underwear in a Ziploc baggie. Also discovered at the scene were an O-ring, a broken cell phone, writings, a green canvas bag, a shovel handle, cassette tapes, rubber and leather gloves, and a bullet casing from a .25 caliber pistol. A few days later, the San Bernardino County coroner ruled that the teen died from a gunshot wound to the head. The first shot was non-fatal and was 1 inch long by 1 inch wide and grazed the top left side of her head. The second was fatal, entering the right rear side of her head. Kinsey Nordman told police that Kelly would not have gone back there unless she was with people she knew or if prohibited substances were involved. She would have done anything for them. She would have walked back there if she had to, said Kinsey. The investigators did not see any apparent motives for this crime. They hoped that the shell casing discovered next to Kelly's body would allow them to find the one who took her life. While awaiting the results of the ballistics examination, the police decided to again focus their attention on Kelly's social platforms and her relationships with friends, namely Kinsey Nordman and Damian Guerrero. The latter initially seemed to be a mutual friend of Kinsey and Kelly, but by delving into these relationships, the investigators learned something important. Guerrero lived in a 2-story white and tan home in Highland, an upper-class suburb next to Redlands, with his mother, stepfather, and brother. He was smart and admired by his peers among the town's small goth crowd. He topped off his black t-shirts and black pants with white contact lenses like his idol Marilyn Manson. Nordman and Guerrero liked to listen to Manson, 9 Inch Nails, or Tool, and watch films like Reservoir Dogs, A Clockwork Orange, or their favorite Natural-Born Killers. Bullwinkle may have longed to be Guerrero's soulmate, but Guerrero and Nordman had a deep connection, and they really did consider themselves to be soulmates. For Christmas 2002, Nordman bought Guerrero the matching snake rings Juliette Lewis's character gave Woody Harrelson's character in Natural-Born Killers. Nordman was so taken by the movie that she had a poster in her room and even named her parrot and rabbit Mickey and Mallory, the names of the Harrelson and Lewis characters. Kelly Bullwinkle, Kinsey Nordman, and Damian Guerrero became friends in high school. Damian was in a relationship with a girl named Elodie Romero. However, by examining the emails, investigators learned that Damian was also intimate with Kelly. Kinsey and Damian were best friends even before they met Kelly. At first, the relationship between the three was good. However, everything changed after Kelly and Damien's intimate relationship stopped being a secret. Kinsey Nordman and Elodie Romero, Damien's girlfriend whom he did not want to break up with, found out about this. A strain between Bullwinkle and Nordman was revealed in an email Bullwinkle sent to Nordman 3 days before the killing. "You treat me as if you're the work of God's hands," Bullwinkle wrote. "You always rub it in my face that you have a boyfriend, and I don't." The more investigators studied Kinsey Nordman, the more they became convinced that she was not the sweet girl she appeared to be when they asked her questions. Her parents also knew about her dark side. Kinsey's mother, Deborah, once overheard a phone conversation between her daughter and her then-boyfriend Marco Diaz, who later went to prison for assaulting another woman. According to police transcripts, Deborah recalled Diaz saying, "Wouldn't it be cool if your mom got cancer and we could take away her medication so she could die?" Kinsey agreed, adding, "It would be cool." Diaz then asked, "Wouldn't it be cool if your dad died?" Nordman agreed again. The family was devastated. Kelly Bullwinkle's relationship with Damien and Kinsey showed signs of cracking at the prom. Elodie Romero, Damien's girlfriend, called Kelly a poser and criticized her for wearing the same shoes and shopping at the same goth clothing store as her. The situation worsened in August, when Elodie Romero found out about Kelly's relationship with Damien, whom she had been dating for 2 years. The information was laid out in an instant message, in which Kelly told Elodie about her intimate relationship with Damien. Shortly after, Damien broke things off with Kelly Bullwinkle, but Kelly seemed to be in love with him, and this became a problem. According to Patrice Engel, the mother of one of Romero's close friends, Elodie and Damien were frustrated with Kelly because Kelly wouldn't leave Damien alone, that she was obsessed with him, and he wouldn't reciprocate. Elodie and Damien were tired of Kelly hanging around and interfering with what they were doing. Nordman and Bullwinkle were fighting more often too. More than 400 family members and friends, including Nordman and Guerrero, attended Bullwinkle's memorial service at Memorial Chapel at the University of Redlands. They looked overwhelmed with grief, or at least wanted to give the impression that they were mourning Kelly. Investigators started suspecting that one of Kelly's friends might be involved in what happened to her. They called Kinsey Nordman in for questioning. During a long interrogation, she eventually confessed that she and Damien Guerrero had taken Kelly's life, but she claimed it was an accident. "We really screwed up," she said. "Damien and I shot Kelly. It was an accident." When police questioned Guerrero, he admitted to owning a .25 caliber pistol that he said he dumped months earlier in a storm drain near Center Street and Cypress Avenue. After scouring the storm drain, police could not find the gun. However, they found several shell casings in Guerrero's backyard, and ballistics confirmed that they matched the shell casing found next to Kelly Bullwinkle's body. In custody, Nordman told the police that what happened on September 13th was a terrible accident, a practical joke gone awry. The plot was hatched 2 weeks earlier. Bullwinkle was to pick up Nordman after her shift at Baker's Burgers. The two would drive to Santa Mateo Canyon, hike a little bit, smoke pot, and wait for Guerrero's arrival. When Guerrero arrived, the two would lure the terrified Bullwinkle over to a shallow grave they had dug the day before. They would point a gun at her head and tell her that this was the way she was going to die. However, Guerrero was 2 hours late and almost missed the two as they were driving out of the canyon at 7 p.m. Guerrero persuaded the two to stay and go for yet another walk, this time in the direction of the 1-foot-deep grave. While Bullwinkle was standing near the shallow grave with her back to her two friends, the gun went off. Nordman said she was shocked because she didn't think Guerrero would bring a gun. Guerrero said the gun went off accidentally. Kinsey stated it was supposed to be a joke. Kelly was supposed to freak out, and that was supposed to be it. According to police reports, Kelly fell to the ground. She moved her legs and moaned. Kinsey claimed she panicked and told Damien to shoot Kelly a second time, but he said he couldn't do it. Then Kinsey took the gun and shot Kelly in the head so that the latter wouldn't suffer anymore. After that, Kelly stopped moving. Nordman's mother, Deborah, who was present during Nordman's confession, asked her why she didn't use a cell phone to call for help. Nordman replied that there was poor reception in the canyon. "So you shot her and put her out of her misery?" Deborah asked. "Yeah," she replied. Guerrero placed Bullwinkle into the shallow grave, while Nordman scooped dirt on her with her hands and feet. They smoothed the top of the grave with Nordman's father's shovel the two had left at the scene the day earlier. A nearby tattered orange couch was dragged over her body, excluding her right leg, which was still exposed when the paintballers found her 3 weeks later. Nordman drove her dead best friend's car to the Ontario Mills Mall and abandoned it in the parking lot. Guerrero in his 2001 Honda Civic followed behind. They both changed their clothes, threw Kelly's car keys in a dumpster, and went to dinner. They even had time to take in a 9:20 p.m. movie, Once Upon a Time in Mexico, at the Krikorian theaters. Police didn't buy Nordman's tale of a joke gone awry. At a press conference on November 6th, they stopped short of providing a motive and would only say that the murder was over a personal dispute between the three. During the trial, Nordman and Guerrero continued saying that Kelly's death was an accident. However, the fact that it was Kinsey who fired the second and fatal shot instead of trying to call 911 left the jury in no doubt about her guilt. The court sentenced Nordman to life in prison. "I know in my heart that there is no excuse for what I did," Nordman, 21, said in a 3-page statement she read to a San Bernardino County Superior Court judge and a packed courtroom. "I know in my heart of hearts that I never meant for Kelly to be hurt, and I would give anything to bring her back." Judge Michael A. Smith, who called this one of the most tragic and senseless cases of his 18 years on the bench, delivered a sentence that won't allow Nordman a parole hearing for nearly 44 years. As for Guerrero, the jury could not reach a unanimous decision. Therefore, there was a retrial. He pleaded guilty to second-degree life deprivation and was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 15 years. Diana Bullwinkle, U.S. Coast Guard Chief Petty Officer, originally of Las Cruces, passed away on February 1, 2014, in Redlands, California. She served her country for 26 years, receiving an honorable discharge from the U.S. Coast Guard. Guerrero applied for parole 3 times, in 2018, 2019, and 2021, but was denied release. However, his 4th attempt was successful, and he was released from prison in July 2023. It remains unclear what really happened that day and what was the motive for taking Kelly Bullwinkle's life. Authorities found no evidence that Guerrero's girlfriend, Elodie Romero, was involved in the crime. Share your opinion on this case in the comments, and thank you for watching this video to the end.